Welcome, Sojourners, to the Women's Leadership Mindset series presented by Teresa K. Page, LLC. My name is Teresa Page. I am your host and looking forward to spending these next few moments with all of you. We have a lot of work to get done on today, but first, allow me to invite you to connect with me by subscribing to my website and YouTube channel. Connect and follow me on LinkedIn, and always feel free to contact me directly via email at teresakpagellc@outlook.com. So what is our goal? Well, as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor, my mission is to help professional women renew their leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose through the mediums of leadership development and coaching services. However, the Women's Leadership Mindset series is a new initiative intended to spotlight powerful women leaders and how they serve the world through their professions and purpose. So with the goal to help women realize their unfulfilled dreams and re-energize the leaders they always were. This platform is designed to enhance, empower, educate, equalize, and even emancipate, as our special guests share their entrepreneurial stories, provide valuable resources, and guidance in a caring, professional, and impactful manner. So, let's get down to business. It is my pleasure to welcome to my virtual stage Maz Alexander of Maz Transformational Coaching. Maz is a qualified transformational and mental well-being coach, mother, social worker, and speaker based in South London. She has a passion for supporting women who are caregivers to increase their self-worth and implement the self-care they need to show up effectively for their clients and loved ones. Maz indicates that it appears that many people tend to focus on their physical health at the expense of other aspects of their being. The pandemic caused many of us to reflect. However, there is still so many people who are burdened and feel stigmatized by reaching out for help. So, if you want to contact Maz, you can definitely reach her on her website, which is maztransformationalcoaching.com, which is currently under construction, but keep that in mind. As well, you can reach her via email at mazcoaching@gmail.com. So we'll bring this information back to you before we go, along with Maz's free gift. But now, we want to set the stage and we want to welcome Miss Maz. Maz, welcome. How are you? How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I might just swap seats because I'm aware that there's flickering. It looks like I'm having a disco. The lights are all blinking. I'm very good apart from that. Good to be here.
Well, it's wonderful. I want to say welcome to the Women's Leadership Mindset. It's such an honor to be able to spend some time with you. And it's okay, a little flickering, a little disco never bothered anybody. Yes, yes, yes. I just want to say welcome. It's such an honor to be able to spend some time with you. I know that we're still virtually strangers, but we've had a chance to warm connect over LinkedIn. And I would just want to say I am looking forward to building a strong working relationship from here moving forward. So I hope you're very open to that. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this conversation. We are looking forward to learning more about you. So we're going to let you go ahead and lay the groundwork. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, well, thank you for that lovely introduction. So you're right, I'm across the pond and I have lived in London. I was born and raised in London. Family are of Jamaican origin. I lived out there for a couple of years too. And I completed most of my education here. So I did my first degree was in performance arts because I love the theatre. Then I retrained and as a social worker. I did a master's in social work. And from then on, obviously, I qualified as a social worker. That's my background. And I just always knew I wanted to help people in some capacity. But that led me to work in mental health services. So that's for adults with acute mental illnesses, on the psychiatric ward. So that I'm still doing that as well on the side, as well as running my business. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I am a Christian lady. I am a mother, and to a teenage daughter who who tries my mental health as well at times. But yeah, that's mostly it.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know we're going to have a little bit more time of talking about your business specifically, what you offer in coaching. But before we get there, I want you to tell us a little bit more about your profession, but most importantly, what motivated you to step into that particular arena?
Yes. So yeah, I forgot to say, I also provide bereavement support for people who have lost loved ones. But what connects all of those things, because I do wear many hats, but they're all connected because I'm very comfortable with people's pain and their trauma. And like I said, when I think back to even before, I never considered to be a social worker, but I knew I wanted to help people. My mother was a psychiatric nurse, and back in those days, they used to have asylums. So anybody who was considered a deviant was put in there. You didn't have to be mentally ill. So if you were a single
Wow.
mother, I would have been in there. I would have been in there back then. If whatever, if you didn't conform to whatever social norms were at the time, you were placed there. And I remember being a little girl thinking, I'm going to release all of them. I'm going to let them out. So in a way, that is what I do. So I got into that, but over here in the UK, we have what we call a national health service, which is free healthcare. Isn't that amazing?
That's
But
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, it's overstretched, and the staff are all tend to be quite stressed because we work long hours and what have you. So my business was born out of this because we are good at looking after others, but no one was really looking after our well-being. So a lot of people who are, nurses, social workers, anyone who works on the ward will tell you we do get burnt out at times, and we are self-sacrificing. And just by nature of being a woman. So I said, there needs to be something for us. And that is why I created the coaching services around working professional women who are at risk of burnout, who need to get self-care. They need that because their health depends on it. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. You really touched a point there, Maz, especially for people that work in your particular industry. You mentioned that they're self-sacrificing. They do oftentimes put themselves on the back burner. How do you convince them, or how do you convince them that they do need to take some time out to for that self-care? Because a lot of times that's almost like pulling teeth to get someone who cares for others to actually pause and look at themselves. And in some cases, they may feel like that's some type of sabotage, or even that is selfish to even do so. So how do you convince them that they need this type of self-care? They need to show themselves this type of self-care.
Yeah, you're right. Convincing is is a really hard kind of task to do, because what happens within all, not just mental health, physical health, all aspects of health, people tend to wait until they're in a state of crisis. And my message is, why are you going to wait? You don't have to go on the psychiatric ward. Why wait until you completely break down? You could be like, you have your car, and over here we call it MOT. You take your car to the mechanic, don't you? You top up the oil and the requirements. You see all those things. You maintain your car because you don't want it to break down. And the same we need to do with our minds, with our bodies, our souls. It requires maintenance, and if you neglect it, you are going to have the consequences. So that might look like, for example, it might manifest physically. So indigestion, high blood pressure, which is common in our community, sleep disturbance, or just general stress, feeling overwhelmed all the time, or yes, mental health crisis. It can look different for different people, but I'm saying in trying to convince people is that it is, and it's not a sign of weakness, because many people feel like, oh, I'm fine. That's not for me. But yeah, you can be fine, but you need to maintain. How are you going to do that? What is in your toolkit? So that's what I ultimately do, because I always ask people, especially on the ward, how did you get here? How did it get to this point? And some say they don't know. For some, it was a slow progression. But let's just maintain our health and well-being, and that's what I tell them. And they gradually, some will gradually see that, and they say, yeah, well, I have been feeling stressed and I have been feeling a bit tense. And then they then make an intention to put themselves first. But it's a mindset thing. You're right, Teresa. It's a mindset issue, because if you don't think that you deserve it and you are too invested in other people, then you'll always do that. You'll be a martyr. And I guess the final point of that message is just, it's like, what was the saying? As we know the saying, you cannot pour from an empty vessel. You know, it's like there's always a reason when you get on the plane, you know, Teresa, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, because you're not going to be any help to if you're incapacitated. So that's why we do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where do you think that don't deserve it feeling comes from? Just in your personal experience and with the individuals that you work with some of the, as you dig deep, what do you think some of those root causes are of that feeling of, I don't deserve this, so I'm not going to maintain?
Yeah, it's often, it comes from various places and it's unique to the individual, but often some common themes are, it's just from childhood modeling. I know for me, I also experienced that before I came into that. The root is fear, often fear, rejection, abandonment. So often, if you've been in a relationship, whether it's with your spouse or your primary caregivers, and you were made to feel that, um, you don't need that. You don't need this. You need to put others first. You should not think about yourself because it's selfish. I mean, even society kind of promotes that idea. And while it's good to be selfless, we can sometimes be doormats. So yeah, culturally speaking as well, there are some nuances there. For example, within, you know, those of us from the African diaspora, these are kind of colonial legacies that we have. And for those of us who are women of faith, again, religion plays a part, because often they may have misinterpreted what it means. And they're busying themselves doing ministry. They're busy doing all kinds of things, thinking, doing wonderful things, good things, but they're not doing the thing that maybe God had called them to do. They're not sitting and thinking about how it connects to their purpose. So they're doing all kinds of things. So it's just, again, kind of understanding what you're here for, what your purpose is, and what you're meant to do and what you're not. So.
Absolutely. You know, I kind of want to take a side detour and not go too far off, but you just made mention of something because I'm a preacher's kid, so I grew up in church. I'm also a woman of faith as well. And you're right, for years, culturally and even from a religious perspective, that even if you were having some mental challenges, the answer has always been pray, fast, or just make sure you stay in Bible study, come to church. And all of those are wonderful, and I do believe that there are some amazing tools that's available to people who are in that faith-based space. But I'm also starting to hear, or at least start to hear a little bit more often, that pastors are now saying from their pulpits that that therapy is also important to the spiritual space as well. That sometimes you just can't pray away some kind of traumas or things like that. That you actually do need to take on some additional help. What are you seeing with that? I'm starting to really just see that shift in the last year or so. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic and some of the ways that maybe parishioners have suffered quietly, especially not being able to congregate and those kind of things. What are you seeing on that spectrum, and why do you believe that the faith arena is starting to take that shift to say that it's okay that faith and therapy can abide in the same space?
Well, we're starting to see that, and it depends. It does depend on the church, but for the same reason that we see it in wider society, it's a trending topic. Because there's still some churches that it's taboo to even talk about that. And like you said, Teresa, we have a tendency to over spiritualize everything. And I say to those pastors, would you, if somebody came to you, they have a long-term illness, they have a cancer, for example, would you say, we're just going to pray that way? You don't need chemotherapy. You don't need to go and get treatment. Or would you say to somebody with diabetes or asthma, you don't need that, or you just need to breathe properly. You just need to, that would be insensitive. And furthermore, you're not a doctor. So there is a link between the two. And when I think they're taking notice, because yes, like you say, they're seeing members of their congregation who are suffering, who are dying. It was Suicide Prevention Day, actually, on Sunday. And we're seeing, yes, suicide in the church. We're seeing things that we are not equipped for. So because they know that, I think there is some collaborative work to be done with health, social care, faith, all of these arenas, because they should never be separate. They should never be separate. And it's quite dangerous to tell somebody that they don't have enough faith, or that they're deficient in some way because they're experiencing maybe a chemical imbalance, or because not everything is a spirit. Sometimes it can be, but and I highlight to those people, Teresa, that how many biblical characters, there's many, that would, Elijah, for one, Elijah, Job, David, Jeremiah, various, by the way, they all had what we would consider under the DSM. They had mental disorders. If they were alive today, they would be within our team. I'd be coming to see them. But yet, the point I'm making, Teresa, is that despite that, God loves to use that. They were still mighty leaders. So we can't deny, and we don't talk about that, and we don't talk about suicide. We don't talk about the fact, yeah, we say, okay, Saul fell on his sword. Samson, we don't say Samson committed suicide or ended his life, which is what he did, and the many others that did for various reasons. But every life issue is in that Bible, and we shy away and we only present the good things. But it's real life. So I think we need to be authentic and have that open discussions, because we can't be, how can you be going to church and suffering in secret? Yes, God is your strength, but if you're going to church and people are offering empty platitudes like, oh, if you came to me, Teresa, you say, I'm feeling depressed, and I say to you, oh, Teresa, you're supposed to be stronger than that, call yourself a Christian, how's that going to make you feel? You're never going to open up to me again. So we don't need to lose any more people. We don't need people not coming to church and people suffering in silence. We need understanding. We need to know how God works with this, because he understands. And we just need to come together to support each other and bear each other's burdens. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I would love to talk more about that, but I know that we got to move on. But I do believe that from a spiritual point of view, that it's important that we have both the spiritual as well as practical resources available to us so we could be whole beings, spirit, soul, and body. And I do believe that's a requirement. I mean, even one of the apostles, our brother Luke, dear brother Luke, he was a physician. So I'm sure that Jesus Christ needed him on his team for something. So it's necessary. And so thank you for bringing some spotlight out to that. And I'm glad that the churches are starting to have this kind of conversation so we don't have to suffer in silence. That is not the Lord's best for his children. I really just don't believe that. So thank you for giving us some insight. So we're going to continue to push forward. So I know that operating in this kind of space, as far as with your coaching, what are some of the tools that you provide to those caregivers as far as within your coaching space? So what are some of the services that you provide within your organization?
Well, the organization is quite small, so effectively it is primarily through one-to-one coaching. It is through, I run a series of workshops. I do, yes, some group workshops, webinars, and just I do a lot of talks just generally around mental health awareness. And I didn't think, I thought that by 2023 I wouldn't need to, but there is still a need because people maybe are not as aware as they might need to be. So I do a lot of that, and it's primarily women. I'm not saying men don't come, but it tends to be women just by their nature that require the service. And we look at various models, but it's just basically a person-centered approach. And yes, we do use some biblical principles in terms of things like, and these are universal laws, like the law of reciprocity, the law of self-concept, how you see yourself. Lots of minds. It's all in the Bible actually, but we, the psychologists will call them different things. They rebrand them, but ultimately it's just using biblical principles to bring about that transformation, and that's what I do. There's no magic science to it.
Absolutely, and I absolutely love that. And it sounds like you are basically working on transforming the mindset. So, as you know, this is the Women's Leadership Mindset series. And so this is a great segue because one of the things I truly believe, a lot of people that has either heard me speak or either seen any of my vlogs or anything like that, they do know that I believe that every woman is a leader and that we all have a controlling influence either in a particular domain, a particular industry, cause, a people, a region, or a territory. So, can you share with us, Maz, what kind of leader would you say that you are? If you had to describe your leadership abilities, what kind of leader would you say that you are?
Well, I would say I am, and by nature of the fact that I'm a coach, so it is I'm a collaborative leader. I tend to be as well as a yeah, I suppose you call it transformation. Certainly, certainly not a dictator, but I do that because I believe even that word leader and what it means. So it's more of a collaborative approach, and because as you know, Teresa, in coaching, it's not that necessarily I'm the expert per se. You know yourself, and I am collaborating with you and working in partnership with you because actually you have the answers, but you need the space and the time to bring them out. So that is exactly what I do. And I've always led like that. Even, well, actually, my daughter might say my daughter might say different, but in business, that's how I tend to lead in a yeah, in a collaborative way, which brings about, a transformational kind of leading style.
I
And
think
the
that's
focus,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah. No,
Go
that's
ahead.
it
I'm
really. I was
sorry.
just going to
Please
say,
continue.
so no, I was just clarifying, but yeah, so the style of leadership really, again, it comes back to coaching because it's very person-centered. It's not necessarily, yes, we have a vision and we have that, and it's not do as I say, not as I do. It's just transformational. The focus is very future focused, and it focuses on bringing about change so that you can better understand yourself, so you can reach your potential and bring about your overall success.
So you shared with us a little earlier that your educational background, and you just expressed with us how you are a collaborative type of a leader. So, what are some of the tools and the methods that you utilize to either enhance upon your mindset and to maintain your mindset? So, what are the things that you do personally to make sure that you are staying in the mind space that you need to be in?
See. I do many things. First of all, it's going to sound selfish. People not used to it. I work on me. I work on my own mindset. I am intentional about my own self-care because if I'm not doing those things, then I'm not effective in my business. It's about what being a continuous learner, so continuous professional development. So yes, I attend many seminars, lectures, retreats, various adding to my certifications, um, and networking with like-minded people who have been where I've been, who are master coaches or they're mentors, they're pastors, they're various people, not necessarily in my industry either, but it's about being in those. And when I say even just listening to podcasts and things, hours every day. Now, that's how I know that coaching is transformational, because I was coached and I was not. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, Teresa, I don't read no book. I don't go to meetings. I don't even do this, what we're doing. So you see, God is working on that. And it's a thirst for knowledge. What's that? You know, the scripture says, with all thy wisdom, you know, you're basically telling you to keep on growing, getting wisdom, because we know that people perish for lack of knowledge. So I always want to be refreshed, because whatever knowledge I'm getting, my clients and colleagues are getting the benefit. I'm sharing that with you, and I'm sharing my life experience. So yeah, I'm constantly, and just like with my, so that's coaching as well, and business, personally and professionally. For example, over here, to be registered as a social worker, we need to anyway, because you cannot practice unless you've done so many hours. So I have to do that. I have to register every year to make sure make sure I know what I'm doing. And that's what I do. I apply that across the board. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, as we prepare to start winding down in our conversation, one of my favorite questions that I like to ask the women that I have the pleasure of sitting with is, how would you like future generations to benefit from the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, I've thought about this, because ultimately what we do has to, well, what I do has to make a difference. It has to have an impact. And I think because I've got a daughter, I have nieces, nephews. It's for them. That's comes back to my why. So future generations, I want them to know that you don't have to suffer in silence. And for me, it's really important to break those generational patterns, that we have those dysfunctional patterns that keep us captive, those mindsets. For example, the simple things, especially again in our community and as women of faith, we'll hear things like like things like it's a sin to be wealthy, or you don't deserve happiness. They don't say it explicitly like that, but it comes in a woman should not do certain things, all of that talk that we've heard over the years. Yeah, what goes on in this house stays in this house, all of that talk. And I think it was Maya Angelou who says, each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women. So for me, that's what it's about.
I
I'm
love
not
that.
trying to be yeah, but it's true though, isn't it? So when we speak, and I think Brené Brown says something similar, it just gives permission. When I'm sharing my pain, my experience, whatever it is, the rawness of it, it gives you permission. It gives the next person permission to say, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. And yeah, we learn from each other because we've been through it, and we make a blueprint for the next generation. So that's what it's about for me.
I love that whole idea of breaking generational patterns. I absolutely love that. I love that. So, Maz, as we prepare, as we get ready to close, as the preachers would say, we get ready to close. So I think we get about 3 closures. Is that how it goes? We get ready to close. So, now what is for those women who will have the opportunity to listen to this conversation, especially women who, as you just mentioned, that it's important for women to be able to find their space, find their happiness as they continue to break those generational patterns. So, for those women who are wanting to step out into that dream job or into that dream career, but they haven't quite taken those steps, what would you say to them that would give them the courage to go ahead and make that leap? What kind of either tips or resources or encouragement would you give them to say, go ahead and take that leap?
Yeah. Yeah, come and talk to me. We'll make a strategy. But no, just generally, it's like Nike, the slogan, the Nike slogan, just do it. Because ultimately the conditions might not be right for you now. They're never going to be perfect, by the way. So don't say, I'll wait till the kids are older. I'll wait till I get more money. Or maybe when I get that husband. No, don't wait. Start this a small thing. There's a small action that you can take to do now, whether it's reading a book to find out more because you don't know about a particular area of business, whatever it is, take the step now. Book that consultation, whatever you've got to do. And like I say, we've talked about this before. Be a learner, because I didn't know I had the skills. I had all these degrees. I had experience, but it wasn't enough in business because I didn't know how to run a business. I had to get me a business coach. I had to learn because I thought, oh, well, people, they'll see me and they'll just want me. No, did I know about marketing, selling? Had to learn. So whatever it is that you don't know, just learn. There's so much free content out there as well. So you don't have to have a lot of money. You could go on YouTube, you could go on Teresa's website, you can go wherever and just get some ideas, get some inspiration. And networking events are fantastic for this because divine connections, you'll meet someone who could maybe help you, inspire you. And just finally, Teresa, I would say that for those of you who are faith, even if you're not of faith, pray. It won't hurt you to pray. Pray about it because I think it's okay to dare to dream and have the vision. Your vision is unique to you. Not everyone will see it or appreciate it, but that's okay. In fact, most of the time they won't, and those people will be your family. But don't be discouraged too much by that. Keep going, keep going. Write it down as well. Plan and strategize. But it's really important that you have some kind of goals because often people say, I want to do this, I want to do that, and they don't have any goals, any SMART goals. So and yes, sorry, I know I kept saying finally. The other thing is just to remember that if you're in a job right now, and we've all been there, a job that we hate, um, you need to plan your exit strategy if you can. Do so, it's okay. Plan your exit strategy, do something that will motivate you outside of work. So when even I, still working these long hours and what have you, I, for example, do stand-up comedy on the side. I like to be a clown and make people laugh on stage. So that brought me, that made me get through it. Life has to have meaning. So please do some meaningful activities and, just really ensure that you're pursuing your purpose. If you don't know what that is, you can get clarification in various ways. Look at what your strengths are and just play to those strengths and get around some like-minded people. There you go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is actually a great segue for you to talk about your free gift. So your free gift is actually a complimentary coaching session. So it could definitely help individuals get on that right road. Uh, definitely get on that right road to step out in some uncharted territory. So tell us a little bit more about your free gift.
Yeah, I'm the gift. Me.
I'm put a
No,
bow on it.
yeah, I know. It's really just feel free and I guess for the first 10 people, Teresa, because I don't want to be overwhelmed, but just if you're feeling if what anything that I've said resonates with you, feel free to book that free strategy call and we can go through and make a plan and what have you. That's what I did with a coach at the beginning of my journey. I mean, I only saw her once, but it helped because it set the journey. So you've got nothing to lose. Like I say, it's complimentary. And just see how we can help you get on your journey. Yeah, connect with me to schedule that complimentary session. And I'm offering this up until the end of October. So be quick. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And we're definitely going to put that information in the chat. And so, Maz, it was such an honor to be able to spend some time with you with the women's leadership mindset. You definitely have given us a lot to really think about and to understand that we do deserve that self-care. And thank you for opening the door for those of us who need to come in and have a closer talk with you, conversation with you to get them pointing in the right way. So everyone, we would just want to give it up for Miss Maz Alexander, all the way from across the pond in South London. Again, you are able to contact her via her website, maztransformationalcoaching.com. As we mentioned earlier, it is under construction, but it'll be available soon. But in the meantime, you can also contact Maz via LinkedIn, as well as social media information that we will put in the chat, and that we're also going to put in our description. And be sure to also reach out to her via email at mazcoaching@gmail.com. So we want to say thank you so much for joining us on today. As always, here's to the journey, and let's move forward.